this is Alan, welcoming you to the 2090th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 23rd of March 2017. The readers this week are Jenny, Roz, Sonia and myself, with Ian on the controls. The editor was Lynda, and the production and distribution team is Keith, Phillip, Joan and Jean. Our title music is, of course, Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include a betrayal of his principles, how could they know it was me, education chief urged to rethink funding plan, and mum with cancer is seeking donors. Before the first news, we have one or two special items and notices normally, but this week we don't have any. However, we do have a sunrise and sunset time for tomorrow, which is the 24th of March. Sun rises at 05:57, that's just 3 minutes before 6 o'clock, and sun sets at 18:17, that's just before the archers. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and any special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Sonia will read the first item of local news.
A betrayal of NHS principles. A controversial plan to scrap non-urgent operations and ditch hearing aids for some people has been slammed by a pressure group. The Enfield NHS Clinical Commission Group, CCG, is proposing cutting some non-urgent treatments to tackle a £7.7 million annual deficit. It means that many patients in the borough would no longer be treated for certain ailments, including gallstones, hernias, knee replacement surgery and hearing loss. Enfield Over 50s Forum described the proposals as hollow and short-sighted. President Monty Meth said, "The CCG has launched a controversial plan which means that patients will no longer be treated until we are in severe pain or deafness affects our independence and social life." As well as cutting hearing aid provision for people aged 50 and above with mild hearing loss, the CCG will also require those with moderate hearing loss to go through an eligibility test before receiving any help. Paul Breckel, Chief Executive of charity Action on Hearing Loss, said, "Hearing loss currently affects 1 in 6 of us. We are deeply opposed to Enfield CCG's plans to deny people with mild hearing loss the hearing aids they need. It could affect thousands of people in the area. We'll be fighting these cuts in Enfield and anywhere else we feel people are being denied the only viable, cost-effective treatment for hearing loss. Hearing aids are a lifeline to millions of people, enabling many to stay in work and not feel isolated." Both Enfield Over 50s Forum and Action on Hearing Loss are urging the borough's residents to leave feedback and complete the CCG's online survey, www.enfieldccg.nhs.uk/survey adherence-to-evidence-medicine.htm. The consultation is due to end on March the 31st. Mr. Meth added, "While we recognise the financial challenges facing the NHS, we cannot accept that the solution lies in refusing treatment for an arbitrary list of conditions until patients are in severe pain or lose their quality of life, betraying the foundation principles of the NHS." A CCG spokeswoman said, "Enfield CCG is on target to deliver its financial plan for 2016 to 17. This is an annual deficit of £7.7 million. We plan to break even in 2017 to 18. This involves a savings target of £24.8 million next year. Enfield CCG has received increases to funding in recent years. We do not intend to cut services. Our adherence to evidence-based medicine programme is led by our clinicians. It ensures our resources are targeted at achieving the best outcomes for our patients. As part of our adherence to evidence-based medicine programme, Enfield CCG is consulting residents about the introduction of new thresholds for the provision of hearing aids to reflect the latest clinical evidence. Following a review of clinical evidence by local GPs and senior hospital doctors in north central London of some of the treatments that the CCG currently funds and their effectiveness, we are proposing changes to access criteria for some treatments available on the NHS.
How could they know it was me? A man who was issued a ticket for using a mobile phone while driving claims the light police saw in his car was from the passenger's phone, not his. Aslan Tariq of Whipps Cross in Leytonstone was driving with his family when he was pulled over by police who accused him of breaking the law. The 27-year-old's brother was sitting in the passenger seat using his phone when the incident took place in Leabridge Road, Leytonstone at 6:30 p.m. on Friday, March the 3rd. The investment banker filmed his 20-minute argument with officers over the ticket, and it has been viewed by thousands of people online. He said, "My brother was sitting in the passenger seat using his phone. The policewoman must have seen the light from his phone and she signalled to her colleagues to pull me over. She then accused me of driving while using my phone. I said, how was it possible in the dark to even determine it was my phone? It's really ridiculous, and I'm really angry about it because I'm being prosecuted for something I haven't done." Mr. Tariq's sister, his wife, and his wife's cousin were sitting in the back seat of his car and witnessed the argument. After the policewoman wrote on the ticket that Mr. Tariq's mate was sitting in the passenger's seat, not his brother, he refused to sign the ticket. While arguing with police, Mr. Tariq, who says he talks with his hands, was confronted by a sergeant for waving a pen around. He said to Mr. Tariq, "You're flashing a pointed object around in my face. This is where I come into my remit, mate. You listen to me. You don't want to flash a pointed object around at me." Mr. Tariq then signed another ticket stating it was his brother in the passenger seat. He was issued with a £200 fine and is awaiting a summons to court. He added, "The whole thing is completely absurd. I am always very careful about driving and never use my phone at the wheel. My family were sitting in the back seat looking out at it all, and they were afraid and they thought I was going to get arrested. My sister was due to get married the next day, and it put a dampener on the celebrations. Since 2003, it has been illegal to touch a mobile phone while driving. The fixed penalty notice for using a phone while driving was last week doubled to £200. Also, previously drivers caught with their phones received 3 points on their licence. That has now been doubled to 6 points. A spokesman for the Metropolitan Police said, at around 6:30 p.m. on Friday, March the 3rd, an officer from the Met's Roads and Transport Policing Command issued a man with a ticket for using a handheld mobile phone while driving on Lea Bridge Road, E10. The driver spoke with 2 officers, a police constable and a police sergeant, at the location for around 20 minutes. The man was issued with a fixed penalty notice and told that he will receive a letter with advice on what happens next. No complaint has been received at this time. And this article is accompanied by a photo of Mr. Tarrick wearing a dark suit, white shirt and red tie. He is standing in front of an Islamic quotation.
Education Chief urged to rethink funding plan. MP Joan Ryan has written to the Secretary of State for Education urging her to revise proposals that could seriously compromise standards in Enfield. The MP for Enfield North raised a number of serious concerns about the planned shake-up of school funding, which will in no way address the financial pressures facing so many schools. It is clear from meetings I've held with head teachers and staff from schools in my constituency and from representations I have received from concerned parents that we are facing a difficult and damaging funding settlement, said Miss Ryan. A significant number of mainstream and special education needs schools will be put into a position that is financially unsustainable and could seriously compromise education standards. Schools in Enfield are facing budgetary pressures already, from significant increases in employer and national insurance and pensions contributions to unfunded pay rises for staff, and from cuts to local government services to a growing number of children with special education needs and disabilities. I will continue to campaign for schools in Enfield to be given a fair deal and for school funding across the board to be levelled up, not down. Schools across London are being forced to take drastic measures, including laying off teachers. To help make ends meet, head teachers are begging parents to dip into their pockets to boost cash-strapped coffers, reducing the number of subjects offered at A-level and cutting extracurricular activities. London Council says Education Secretary Justine Greening's attempt to rebalance funding across the country will result in 1,500 schools in the capital, that's 70%, facing cuts. Miss Ryan added, "The national funding formula does not provide adequate support for those pupils most in need in my constituency. Enfield has the highest number of children living in poverty, almost 1 in 3, than any other London borough, and is the 5th most deprived borough in the capital."
A mum with cancer is seeking donors. Friends of a mother who is desperately searching for a stem cell donor have issued an appeal to expectant mothers to donate their umbilical cord blood. Did I say that wrong? Umbilical, that's the word. Umbilical cord blood. Ruby Cruz, a social worker at Enfield Council, was diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer last year. The 37-year-old mother of 2 is undergoing chemotherapy, but her best chance of survival is by finding a stem cell donor. Mrs. Cruz of Boundary Road, Walthamstow, and her husband, Sam Seddon, aged 43, started the Register for Ruby campaign. With the help of volunteers, they organised events which saw hundreds of people register as donors. Now, the Register for Ruby campaign is calling on expectant mothers to donate the blood from their umbilical cords, which could potentially save someone's life. The stem cells in the cord can be used to treat conditions like blood cancer. The procedure is available only in 6 hospitals in the UK. Elspeth Fuller, who is a friend of Mrs. Cruz, said she is disappointed she wasn't told about the opportunity when she gave birth to her daughter in 2014. Mrs. Fuller said, "Given what Ruby is going through, it hurts to know that we miss such an easy chance to potentially save a life." The Anthony Nolan Foundation estimates that 80% of transplant requests could be met if the UK saved cord blood from 50,000 births each year. It is estimated that 65,000 litres of cord blood are thrown away each year. This week, singer Rochelle Humes made headlines after posting a photo of her daughter's umbilical cord made into art, as well as pills made from her placenta. Mrs. Cruz was born in El Salvador and fled with her family to Australia during the Civil War in the 80s. Because she is from an ethnic minority, her chances of finding a donor match are slim. While 60% of patients looking for a match find it, only 20% of people from ethnic minority backgrounds are successful with their search. To learn more about the campaign, go to registerforruby.com. You can also register as a donor at www.anthonynolan.org.
A partly collapsed building, which has kept a busy road shut for 4 weeks, has been deemed safe, but no official date has been given as to when the road will reopen. A stretch of Baker Street between Lancaster Road and Primrose Avenue has been closed, causing widespread inconvenience since the 2-storey building was declared dangerous on February the 22nd. Scaffolding stretches out into the road, making it impassable except on the pavement opposite, next to the Hot Poles pub. And Baker Street has been shut for longer than Jerry Rafferty's saxophone-based hit of the same name, spent at the top of the charts in the 1970s. Agreed work carried out by the owner of the premises to demolish the front wall of the building is nearly complete. But some scaffolding will have to remain in front of the building, keeping the pavement on that side of the road closed to pedestrians. Since the road was shut, the 191 bus, which normally goes along Baker Street into Carterhatch Lane, has had to use different routes, including a diversion via Baker Street, Southbury Road and Great Cambridge Road. An Enfield Council spokeswoman said, "Building control officers are making regular visits to the site and liaising with the owner. Our primary concern is for the safety of residents in the surrounding area. As work progresses, we will get a clearer picture as to when Baker Street will reopen and will advise accordingly." And our latest news is that Baker Street is now open.
The reigning champion of a gardening competition is encouraging people to get up and grow in an allotment. Glenn Hosford used his plot on the site off Carterhatch Lane and Ladysmith Road to become winner of the Enfield in Bloom 2016 and 2015 and gold medalist for the Best Innovative Growing Space in 2014. He took on the allotment in 1992 and started planting in 1993 with potatoes. Impressed with the fruits of his labour, he continued to grow other fruits and vegetables, including radishes, runner beans, courgettes, pak choy, leeks. He is keen to encourage other Enfield residents to get growing. Glenn said, "I grow far more than I can eat and give the rest away. People are always amazed how much nicer everything tastes when you grow it yourself."
A reporter tries out Go Ape. Treetop adventure company Go Ape opened its second central London site on Saturday, set within the grounds of Grade 2 listed Alexandra Palace. It's an impressive series of high ropes, wobbly bridges and horizontal ladders, constructed 8 metres high, up in the trees next to the boating lake of the 196-acre park. When the idea was first mooted, friends groups weren't happy. After all, there's another one not far away at Trent Park in Oakwood. But plans were amended and opening seemed to have been welcomed by most. To see what all the fuss was about, we decided to give it a go. As a family of 5 ranging in age from 42 to 4, finding something for everyone is virtually impossible. But everyone seemed keen when I read out the leaflet. Go Ape. Big kids of all ages will be able to unleash their inner Tarzan when 2 high-wire rope courses on March 18th. But as we walked up from the train station on the eldest, Ruby, 11, was already moaning, "My legs hurt." Then my husband, "Did you ring and check it's still on? It's really windy. I bet they have to shut it down if it gets too windy." They do if it gets above 6 or 7 on the Beaufort scale, I was informed later. And then there it was, set back in what disused woodland, a series of ropes and structures held taut between trees. Luckily, the sight and screams of people already high up distracted my entourage, and we watched in amazement as families wobbled in between the trees and swung overhead, shouting and squealing with delight and a bit of fear. Mary Hayam, the site manager, gave us a brief safety talk and expertly put us into harnesses. There was a quick, guided practice, and then we set off up steep steps that left us all out of breath and delivered us into the treetops. Armed with a harness and a cable, along with a strange mixture of emotions, we were off, of a sea of wires, ladders and swinging ropes and bridges as far as the eye could see. I took about an hour and a half to get around the 2 sections, the section being much more challenging than the first. The eldest 2 ran, vaulted and hurled themselves around the course, laughing and screaming. Joe, the youngest, was more nervous. Having only just cleared the 1 metre height restriction, and the course must have felt pretty daunting to his little legs, but nevertheless he managed it brilliantly. He jumped up and down after he'd done each obstacle, delighted as he'd surveyed his progress. The obstacles had names like the Fisherman's Net and the Flying Carpet, and the views across the London skyline were breathtaking. The worst bit for me, but the best bit for others, was the 50-metre-long zip line down to the ground. Although you know you are on a harness and can't fall, walking off a platform 8 metres high in the air takes courage, but plummeting down towards the ground and then accelerating with the kids cheering at the bottom as I crash-landed bottom first into wood chip. Our treats in the cafe afterwards were just that, because we all felt a sense of accomplishment. Treetop Junior course cost £18 and participants must be over 1 metre tall. A second, more extreme adventure course for big kids of all ages over 10 and minimum height 1.4 metres will open by summer.
Thanks for reading that, Dorothy. That was terrific. A man who deliberately shone a laser pen at a police helicopter, causing a crew member to lose their vision, has avoided a prison sentence. Lim Shin Chung Ching Wan, aged 42, of Blackdown Close, East Finchley, pleaded guilty to recklessly and negligently acting in a manner likely to endanger an aircraft. Police were called to Blackdown Close on January the 12th after a National Police Air Service helicopter was targeted with a green laser light several times, causing a crew member to momentarily lose vision. The aircraft was repositioned to protect the pilot and officers from Barnett's response team swiftly, attended the address where it was believed the laser pen was being used. Chung Ching Wan was questioned about the laser being shone out of the window and initially denied having any laser pens. However, when the seriousness of the offence was explained, he produced a laser pen. Officers arrested him and seized 4 high-powered laser pens. Chung Ching Wan shone the laser at the aircraft several times. He also opened his window to shine the laser at the aircraft. He was sentenced last week to 6 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years, given a curfew and ordered to pay costs of £300. Ollie Dismore, Director of Flight Operations for the National Police Air Service, said, "Laser misuse is a 21st century threat to aviation and the travelling public, and it is positive to see this reflected in sentencing. It is an offence to shine lasers at pilots, and offenders could face fines of up to £2,500 and up to 5 years in prison."
A boy who has spent most of his life in hospital had a dream come true when his footballing hero came to visit. Noah's Ark Hospice in High Barnet is currently celebrating its first year of partnership with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. To commemorate the anniversary, they invited midfielder Moussa Dembélé to meet 10-year-old Alonso Tarazi, who was born with his bowel outside his body. The pair spent the day talking football, and on Sunday, March the 5th, Alonso walked onto the pitch at White Hart Lane with his favourite football team. Moussa said, "I am very happy to see a very positive little man. I feel his energy. He is a nice kid, so my advice to him is stay like he is, with a smile all the time as a happy kid." As a football player, it is unbelievable how you can make people happy to just come and give a bit of your energy. It's one of the nicest things there is. Alonso's mother, Lynda Tarazi, has been supported by Noah's Ark as he has been moved from hospital to hospital. She said, "We have been with Noah's Ark since 2007. We were one of the first families with them. We didn't have anybody. My family is all abroad." Alonso has been so long in hospital and he didn't have these kind of happy times. So this is important to us, for him to have a smile on his face and be excited. Tottenham Hotspur's partnership with Noah's Ark has allowed several children to meet their heroes. Fans have also helped raise the money needed for a paediatric palliative care nurse and a specialist carer for a year, as well as cover the cost of a social day for all the families who use the hospice. Alonso is pictured alongside Moussa Dembélé, showing off his Spurs shirt.
Plans to improve Junction 25 of the M25 to ease motorway misery are unacceptable, says Enfield Council, because of the traffic chaos it would cause on surrounding roads. The local authority has made it clear, in a response to Highways England's consultation, that the scheme should not go ahead unless a coordinated strategy is developed to relieve additional traffic on already overcrowded roads. The council says its own traffic modelling demonstrates that roads surrounding the junction, including Bullsmore Lane and the A10 Great Cambridge Road, would not be able to cope with the extra traffic generated. Roads surrounding the approaches to the M25 are already heavily congested, says the council, and it has been working with Highways England and other organisations through its Northern Gateway Access Project with the aim of establishing a direct access road from Mollison Avenue to the M25. Although generally supportive of the need for significant improvements at Junction 25, the council said that they should not be considered in isolation, as evidence suggested queues and delays would be aggravated, particularly in Bullsmore Lane and the A10. We are keen to continue to work with Highways England to determine a comprehensive and coordinated approach to network improvements in the region through the NGAP project, said the Council's Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration and Business, Alan Sitkin. Given the substantial increase of traffic expected both in Enfield and many of its neighbours over the coming years, we must work together towards developing a more robust strategy to ensure that the isolated benefits of the proposed M25 junction 25 improvements are mutually compatible with the wider economic aspiration for the region, he added.
A man caught on CCTV dumping a mattress in a street in New Southgate in broad daylight last month has been slapped with a £400 fixed penalty fine. Enforcement officers made door-to-door inquiries to try and identify the man after he was spotted fly-tipping in Palmer's Road, close to the junction of Bowes Road, on Thursday, February the 2nd. Since January, Enfield Council says that a total of 12 fixed £400 penalty notices have been issued for fly-tipping offences and 158 fines of £80 penalties for small domestic waste. The council launched a campaign last year to combat fly tipping, and a team of rubbish busters now patrol the streets 20 hours every week. Residents have been warned that on-the-spot fixed penalties have been doubled from £200 to £400 as part of that clampdown. Daniel Anderson, the council's cabinet member for environment, said they would not tolerate fly tipping on any attempt to tarnish the image of the borough. "We are on your case," he said. "When it comes to litter enforcement, we are one of the most determined boroughs in London, spending about £4.4 million each year keeping our streets clean. And the message is clear: if you fly tip, expect to be caught."
An estate agent in Enfield Town was severely damaged after a car ploughed through the front door in the early hours of Monday morning, leaving 2 injured. The glass doors, windows and the frontage of Equity estate agents were wrecked, and the street outside was sealed off as workers tried to clear up the debris and glass. Police advised drivers to steer clear of the site of the accident, which was on the corner of Church Street and Sansfield Road near Enfield Town Library. Branch Director Pani Elinas said, "Obviously it will affect business, but we don't know at this stage how much the repairs will cost. I've got staff calling round and letting people know what's happened. We're trying to clear up and carry on working as best we can. These things happen. I just hope the driver's okay." A London Ambulance Service spokesman said, "We sent 2 ambulance crews, a paramedic in a car and an incident response officer to the scene. The first paramedic arrived at the scene in less than 6 minutes. We treated 2 patients at the scene and they were taken as a priority to a major trauma centre." Police confirmed that a person has been arrested in relation to a drink-driving offence.
A pub that failed to clean up its act has been handed a hefty fine after a second visit by health inspectors revealed that recommended changes had not been made. The Queen's Head in Station Road, Winchmore Hill, has been ordered to fork out £7,510 in fines and costs after it was prosecuted for hygiene failings by Enfield Council at Highbury Magistrates Court on March the 2nd. Bits Enterprises Limited, the owners of the pub, pleaded guilty to 4 charges under the Food Safety and Hygiene England Regulations 2013. A food safety inspector from the council served hygiene improvement notices on the owners after visiting the pub in November 2015, instructing the establishment to tackle problems relating to food safety management, food hygiene training, and using an unsuitable area for food preparation. The owners were given additional time to comply with the order, but a subsequent inspection in March 2016 found that the problems had not been tackled fully. Daniel Anderson, the Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, said, "This establishment was given ample opportunity to clean up its act and simply did not do so, even though it was granted extra time to get things right. We do not want to prosecute food businesses, but when we are left with no choice, we will act firmly and decisively to protect the public from the risk of harm. When residents eat out, they expect chefs to be following proper safety guidelines and preparing food in clean, hygienic conditions that are fit for purpose. Sadly, this was not happening in this case, and the failure to get their food hygiene right has cost the Queen's Head a hefty fine. The pub is considering lodging an appeal."
A teenager has suffered life-changing injuries, including a fractured skull, after being attacked with a hammer in an assault by 3 men. CCTV footage has been released of 3 men police have linked to the assault, which took place last August in Oaklands Passage, Brent. The 19-year-old was taken to hospital and treated for his injuries following the attack, which has left him continuing to have his seizures. Footage shows 3 suspects entering an alley in Oaklands Passage around 5:20 p.m. on August 2nd, 2016, and running off towards Cricklewood Broadway shortly after. It is believed one of the attackers punched the victim in the face, then the other 2 pushed and kicked him to the floor. One of them was said to have used a hammer, while another used a glass bottle, leaving him pleading on the floor. Detective Constable Rupi Gatura said, "This is a shocking incident which has left the victim with life-changing injuries. We are keen to identify the 3 men in the CCTV footage so we can speak to them about the incident. All suspects are described as Asian. One suspect is described as wearing a black jacket, black tracksuit trousers with Adidas down the side, and black trainers with white soles. He was carrying a blue man bag. Another is described as wearing a grey tracksuit and trainers. The third is described as tall, wearing a black jacket, grey tracksuit trousers with a white stripe down the side, and black trainers. Anyone with information can call the police on 101 or tweet at @MEtCC.
Parents in the midst of a school merger were canvassing outside Lavender Primary in Enfield on Monday last week. A 20-strong group, called themselves Friends of Lavender, handed out leaflets calling for a consultation period to discuss the merger of Lavender and Brimsdown Primary School to become a multi-academy trust and to be extended. They are not against the merger per se, but say the consultation has not been carried out properly, leaving them with unanswered questions and fears for their children's futures. But Lavender's governors firmly believe they have given parents every opportunity to have their say and maintain that a merger will give them independence and leave them financially better off to cope with huge cuts in central government funding. William Oliveri, who has 2 children at the school, said, "All we're asking for is more time to consider this merger. We want it to be extended from this month until the end of May. We don't really know what this means for our children and whether it's the best thing for them. If the schools merge, will Lavender lose its best teachers to Brimsdown? We just want answers." A statement from Lavender's governors said parents and staff have had a range of opportunities to ask questions of the governing body, and the responses have been posted on the school website for everyone in our community to access. We are about to hold a second information meeting for parents to ask further questions, and we look forward to seeing them there. The governors remain firmly committed to listening to all views and will make their decision based on what is best for the children.
A grieving father shared the story of how he lost his daughter to cancer at an event in Parliament to raise awareness. David Taylor of Winchmore Hill set up the charity In Sue's Name to highlight the chronic lack of funding for brain tumour research. David's eldest child, Sue Blasotta, passed away in 2011, aged 42, 6 weeks after being diagnosed with an aggressive brain tumour. She left 2 children, Sasha and Daniel. The Speaker of the House and long-standing patron of charity Brain Tumour Research, John Burko, opened the state rooms of the Speaker's House to patients, families and supporters campaigning for change. David said, "My faith in God has been a huge source of comfort and strength since losing Sue, and has given me the inspiration to set up In Sue's Name." It is a bitter irony that Sue, during her lifetime, witnessed friends and family being diagnosed with varying types of cancer, which inspired her to run the Race for Life 5 times and also to take on the challenge of a skydive, raising thousands of pounds for cancer research. More research is needed so fewer lives will be devastated by brain tumours. I want to see a day when cancer is no longer life-threatening, when the notion that cancer could be a killer is thought absurd. The event was to persuade MPs to fight for more funding to treat people with brain tumours. David set up his organisation in 2014, which is now a member charity of Brain Tumour Research. On March the 10th, In Sue's Name held a Greek night at the Perridge Suite in Arnos Grove, which raised more than £21,000 to go towards research.
Children from Walker Primary School in Enfield met Prince Harry when he visited Epping Forest. The Prince toured Epping Forest to visit the Wood Pasture Restoration Project, an initiative aiming to create a global network of forests. In the most poignant part of his trip, the Prince met Sam Hobbs, 26, a veteran paratrooper who lost the lower part of his leg in the Falkland Islands. After meeting Sam, Prince Harry left for High Beach in Epping Forest. There he met children from Aldersbrook Primary School in Wanstead and Walker Primary School in Enfield. To round off his visit, the Prince planted a tree in memory of the day and posed for photos under the Queen's Oak Tree, the same point where Queen Victoria opened Epping Forest in 1882.
Parents from a High Barnet primary school are fundraising to convert a shipping container into a medical centre in Syria. 3 of the group, who are all parents of children at Christchurch Primary School, ran the Vitality North London Half Marathon and collectively raised £1,500 for Médecins Sans Frontières. The group also hosted a fundraising event at the Arkley Club with bands The Food of Love and Good Question giving their time to help the cause. The event is expected to raise at least £2,000 for Samara's aid through ticket sales, a raffle and an auction.
Walk into zebra class at Brimsdown Primary School and you won't hear a pin drop. The 30-strong class of 10 and 11-year-olds are learning sign language with their deaf teacher, Lisa Smith. Lisa doesn't use her voice, but her expressive signing and engaging lesson about flags and food from all over the world has every pupil in the class transfixed. It's fun and it's nice to be quiet sometimes, said Iliada, 10, who can hear like most of the three-form entry school, but has been learning British Sign Language for over 3 years. Hamza Kiliogo said, "I like the way it helps us communicate with deaf people and it's great fun." The school is leading the way with deaf teaching, and it has the system HERBIE, which stands for Hearing Impairment Resource Base in Enfield, and it's had this for 10 years, where youngsters with hearing impairments and deaf children were taught. For the last few years, there's been a big move, literally, to get these children into classes of their peers who can hear. A huge number of teachers are taking BSL exams, and a group of parents of deaf children are learning sign language at the school in Green Street. Danny Lang, associate head teacher, said, "Children are placed in the school because of the Herbie Centre, and they do a lot of work on phonics and signing with the younger end. But every child in the school learns British Sign Language for 25 or 30 minutes at some point during the week. It helps them communicate with their deaf friends. Also, they are very good at it and they enjoy it because it's fun and physical. There is a centre at Highland School in Winchmore Hill, so when our pupils move on to secondary, wherever they end up, they will know sign language, and that's wonderful for them and for other deaf children they meet." Mandy Lawrence, a communication support worker, a teaching assistant with BSL qualification, helps 10-year-old Javea Bang. Javea studies maths alongside her hearing peers, and the teacher's words are translated by Mandy, who is on hand to offer help and great support.
A former footballer is holding a special event to warn about the dangers of gambling. Tony Kelly, who played for Enfield and Cheshunt before turning professional and signing for clubs including Stoke City and Leyton Orient, can speak from bitter personal experience after his addiction cost him £500,000. The player, who once scored for Stoke against Liverpool at Anfield and played at Wembley in the final of the 1992 Football League trophy, was left penniless by his relentless compulsion to seek thrills through punting. Now 51, he lives in Brimsdown and works as a security officer while running a non-profit organisation which tries to educate people about gambling's dark side. He has written a book about his experience, Red Card, and hopes applications which are in the pipeline for government funding may allow him to work full-time on spreading the anti-gambling message. On Saturday, he is holding a gambling awareness and education event at St George's Parish Hall and Community Centre in Hertford Road, Freezywater, starting at 3 p.m. Mr. Kelly, who played for Enfield and Cheshunt in the 1980s, said, "I got into it when I was 18. I'd moved from Coventry to play for Dulwich Hamlet. There was a bit of peer pressure, and I wanted to fit in with the other players. They were doing the pools and putting £5 bets on at the bookies. I never put on huge bets. The most was £200 each way on a horse, and the most I lost was £3,000 in a night at the casino playing roulette. I went bankrupt in 2010, and that was the start of my recovery. I owed £192,000, and having been paid well as a footballer, I lost £500,000 in cash and property, all told. I found myself with basically nothing. You've got to get professional help and recognise that you do need help. I had some therapy, and that's helped me to focus on what I had to do to stop. Mr. Kelly would like to see legal action taken to restrict the extent of gambling, such as cutting the amount people can place on fixed odds betting machines at bookmakers.
Hungry customers tucked into a free fish and chip lunch last Tuesday, courtesy of an Enfield chippy, to raise awareness of and cash for a charity which supports fishermen and their families. MyChippy.com in Main Avenue, Bush Hill Park, is donating the proceeds from raffle tickets sold in the shop to the charity, with prizes including 3 months' worth of fish and chips. Owner Andrew Hung wanted to support the Fisherman's Mission as it is the only UK charity to provide emergency, financial and emotional help to active and retired fishermen. The event was sponsored by KFE, the School of Frying Excellence, which supplies frying equipment and provides training to fish and chip shops across the UK. I don't think people realise being a fisherman is a very dangerous occupation, said Andrew. There's a big gap between those who serve fish and chips and the fishermen who go out in rough seas and risk their life to support their livelihood, added the 39-year-old. National Fish and Chip Shop 2006 winner Mark Petru, who is also a trainer at KFE and won the 2013 Caterway Outstanding Achievement Award, gave a helping hand, cooking and serving food from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. The 45-year-old owns a number of fish and chip shops in Cambridge and said it was a privilege to help out in Enfield and offer advice and tips to the team. It's more about sharing knowledge, he said. I gained as much as I shared. The Fisherman's Mission is such a worthy cause, and I have been an ambassador of the charity for years. Other raffle prizes were 100 signed copies of his books, donated by Mark. MyChippy.com has been rated as one of the top 10 nationwide fish and chip shops 2 years in a row. And Andrew is hoping that Mark's expert tips will steer the shop a step closer to being crowned number 1. Other guests who attended the event included the Deputy Mayor of Enfield, Christine Hamilton. Enfield hasn't had a national fish and chip shop winner, so it was very special to have Mark's help, Andrew added. The picture that goes with this short story shows Andrew Hung and the Managing Director of the Fisherman's Mission, Paul Williams. He is dressed up as the charity's mascot, Albert, a fisherman in his sou'wester, waterproofs and boots.
A £50,000 grant has been awarded to Middlesex University to help it tackle crime on campus. The HEFCE Catalyst Fund awarded the grant as part of a £2.45 million initiative to combat hate crime and sexual harassment in universities and colleges. The toolkit and training model will provide support and solutions to guard against violence, focusing on giving staff and students a safe environment to prevent and report abuse. The programme will be developed by staff and students at the university in partnership with Citizens UK, with the aim of changing the culture on campus. The toolkit will be available to students and staff from March 2018.
A pensioner proved you're never too old to splash out on your own birthday. Don Tozer of North Road in Hertford celebrated turning 85 by taking on the rapids at Lee Valley White Water Centre. The former engineer turned gardener hired 2 rafts for the bash and was joined by some of his 3 children, 6 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren for the white knuckle ride. The 300 metres of course was used in the London 2012 Olympics and was where Team GB sped their way to both silver and gold medals in the canoe slalom. Great-granddaughter Ceres, 14, was the youngest to join the adventure with while Don's wife, Jill, 78, joined other family members at the sidelines to cheer Crusaders on. Don said, "I had a thrilling time. It was particularly special as so many of my children and grandchildren were with me rafting and enjoying the thrilling ride down the fast-moving waters of such a fantastic venue. Maybe I'll give it another go for another milestone birthday. You never know." Don is still a keen sportsman, having tried out the Olympic run 5 years before running the London Marathon age 75, and continuing to keep fit by using his cross trainer.
Well, here's what you've all been waiting for, the sports news. Hockey. Southgate eased to a 4-2 victory at relegation-threatened Indian Gymkhana in their last away match of the season in the Men's Conference East of the English Hockey League. Johnny Maunder fired the visitors into a 12-minute lead, and Simeon Bird doubled their advantage prior to the interval. Hayden Belts pulled one back for the hosts early in the second half, but goals from Drew Birkin and Will Holt sealed Southgate's win, before Marcus Mane grabbed a late consolation effort for Indian Gymkhana. Southgate round off their campaign by hosting Brighton next. And cricket. The Colt section of Enfield Cricket Club are holding an open session next week in a bid to attract new members ahead of the coming season. Youngsters aged 7 or over are welcome to go along to the club, which is based in Lincoln Road, Enfield, from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on March the 31st, where they will be given a taster of what cricket is like. A club spokesman said, "It doesn't matter if you've never played cricket before. Our team of coaches will teach you how to play so that you can feel a part of the team straight away. You can learn new skills, keep fit, make new friends, and have loads of fun in a supportive, inclusive, and positive environment. Everyone is welcome at our club." You can email ECCColts, that's E3Cs at yahoo.co.uk for more information.
And now football. A storming second-half display helped Enfield Town to come from behind and claim a 2-1 victory at home to Leatherhead in the Ryman Premier Division. Town struggled to break down stubborn opposition in the first half and found themselves trailing, courtesy of a fine Jerome Federico goal on 20 minutes. But the hosts were a different proposition after the interval, as they took the game to Leatherhead in a concerted fashion, ultimately getting rewarded for their efforts as goals from Ricky Gabriel and Tyler Campbell gave them maximum points. The win saw Town climb to within 3 points of the playoff places. Leiston had the opportunity to climb into the top 5 and increase this gap by 2 points when they took on Folkestone Invicta in the first of their 4 games in hand. It was a much better performance in the second half, manager Bradley Quinton said. We changed things around a bit and moved Carl Oliyide out wide because we thought his pace would trouble them, and the lads all did really well. Dulwich Hamlet and Leiston have got games in hand, but they're going to have to play a lot of matches in a short space of time, and I'd much rather have the points on the board. If we can win our next 2 games, then I think we'll be right in the mix. Billy Crook tested visiting keeper Lewis Wells inside the first minute, but this proved to be a rare attempt on goal in the first half, as the hosts failed to build on their early promise. Instead, relegation-haunted Leatherhead more than held their own as they enjoyed a substantial amount of possession, and it did not come as a huge surprise when they broke the deadlock, Federico collecting Luke Moore's pass on the edge of the box and beating keeper Nathan MacDonald with a superb chip which ended up in the top corner. Town's only other attempt of note prior to the interval saw Gabriel blaze over while Wells, correctly as there was a covering defender, escaped with a yellow card when he brought down Mickey Parcell outside the box as he raced goalwards. But Town, partially sparked by the introduction of Campbell as a half-time substitute, played with more purpose after the interval, and Oluyide had already gone close before they equalised on 61 minutes, when a Campbell free kick was headed in by a completely unmarked Gabriel at the far post. Durnell Winter had a long-range pile driver tipped over as the hosts continued to press, and they went on to grab the crucial second goal 12 minutes from time. The ball was played up to Oluyide out on the right on halfway, and he superbly turned away from a defender before surging up the wing and pulling the ball back to Campbell, who controlled and steadied himself before firing into the net. Leatherhead never looked like mounting a comeback after this, and the hosts should have added a third deep in stoppage time when Winter was put clean through by Harry Ottaway, but Wells was equal to the challenge and denied him with a fine save.
Callum Wilkinson enjoyed a dream debut in a 20,000-metre walking race in Switzerland. The Enfield and Haringey Athletic Club's junior world champion competed in the Albacete Memorial Walks in Lugano and finished 8th overall in the men's international. The 20-year-old completed the distance in a time of 1 hour, 23 minutes, 46 seconds to better the qualifying times for the London 2017 World Championships as well as the European Under-23 Championships. Wilkinson's time lifted him to 8th on the British all-time list. During the race, he reeled off the 10-kilometre splits in 41.51 and 41.55.
Talented teenager footballer Romany Critchlow-Noble had signed a professional contract with Huddersfield Town's academy. The 17-year-old, who is living in Edmonton, has joined the Championship High Flyers after producing a string of impressive performances for Enfield Borough, who ply their trade at the 11th level of English football in Division 2 of the Spartan League. The left-back was also playing for and studying at the Dynamic Football Academy in Buckinghamshire and has secured his move to Huddersfield following a successful trial at the club. "I'm so pleased for Romany," said Enfield Borough manager Marvin Walker. "He worked so hard in every training session and gave 100% in games. He was improving with every game, which shows he was taking information on board and learning from his experiences on the pitch. Romany is a very good player who can play in a very few positions as well. I believe he will have a long professional career." One of the reasons we formed Enfield Borough was to develop young talented players and help them into professional football. And to see a player move from Enfield Borough to a professional club in our first season is just amazing. We have quality players in the squad at the moment, and hopefully some of them will get an opportunity to follow Romany into professional footballer. Critchlow-Noble impressed the academy coaching staff at Huddersfield whilst starting 3 games for professional development coach Lee Bromley's under-18 side, and this has led to him signing a contract until June 2018, at which point the club has the option of a further year's extension. He will continue to work with Bromley's under-18 squad for the rest of the season. Huddersfield's academy manager Steve Weaver said, "Romany was recommended to us as a player with potential, and he impressed everyone when he made his under-18 debut as a trialist at Hull City. He has exciting potential to develop quickly when he reaches peak fitness and begins training on a full-time basis, so he's never been part of a professional football club before. He's a great size for his age, he has got a good left foot, and his temperament seems ideal. We can only see him getting better and better from this point, so we're looking forward to working with him.
Well, we've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Jenny, Sonia, Roz, myself, and our favourite guest reader Dorothy, and with Ian on the controls, it's goodbye. We've also incidentally had a guest looking in on us, Veronica, who's from St. Petersburg. You never know, she might start the St. Petersburg Talking newspaper. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. And don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with the Enfield Talking newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.